of the machine. So now for you to log into the machine, you should use something called an SSH command, for people who don't know. So you should specify what key I'm using and what user I'm trying to log in as and the IP address. So usually the syntax, I mean the command, downloads. No, let's go to it. Okay. Okay. I would suggest everyone. Oh, I just have to just. Okay. So SSH. I think that's way down. 1 minute. 1 minute. Fine.
You need to do CH mode for 400 before that.
Oh yeah, you should.
Plus 400, right?
Yeah. I hope so.
Even I.
No, I think it's just 400. You don't have to specify.
And at P5 part. P5 part.
Okay. Okay. Login.
Minus P or does it take?
Okay. Awesome. So you should set a mode for your. I mean, you should set CH mode for your PEM key, because only the local user should be able to read and write from the PEM file, or else the SSH daemon will report that the permissions are too open. So you should run this command called first. Go into your downloads folder, if that is where you have downloaded the PEM file, and then run the chmod 400 your demo key.pem command, and then finally I think plus. Okay. This is visible for everyone, or should I make it even bigger? This. Oh, again, I'm not sure. Sorry, I'm not of any help for the Windows users. It's the same. Okay. I don't know. I've never used Windows. Huh? Sorry? Yeah, in any Unix flavor it's the same.
Except Windows.
Yeah, except Windows. So, can we move on?
1 second. There are some problem we are getting with cookies. So I don't know for
Okay, even I don't hear it.
Windows. Yeah.
Sorry? I didn't get it. Yeah, with the terminal. Oh. You guys, I mean, who doesn't know how to?
And you need to convert it to
Okay, so you have to type those things in command line. I see that some people are not aware, I mean, never use command line. Sorry?
No, super user is not required.
Super is not.
You need this also, but before
Who is still having problems with executing these commands? Yes, sorry. No, I'm just asking if anyone is having.
Support for the RX.
No, I am not entirely sure about what other.
Windows will support only PP.
Okay, I was not aware of that. I don't know.
You have to convert your PAM file.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
For Windows.
Oh, okay. Guys, apparently who is using Windows, you need to convert your key to PPK file.
Using footage and footage.
There is footage. Okay. If other people who know can help them, I have no idea. Okay. Okay. So, does anyone need help with cookie? Okay. So what we're trying to do now is are people comfortable using Vim? Because if you are a DevOps guy, you should use Vim or Emacs or Nano. Yeah.
Then VI, right?
Huh?
VI.
Yeah, VI. Sorry? Oh, scroll up, okay. So what we'll do now is I'll just quickly tell you guys how to add anyone's key to authorized keys list, so that you don't have to share the PIM key. So the next time you need to give someone access to your instances, you just ask them for their public key and you paste it into your authorized key. So I'll just show you which file that thing is. So if you type this command vim ~/.ssh/authorized keys, so that is basically your authorized key files. So you will have like one public key entry in it, which is whatever the private key that we have. You don't have to use Vim. If someone is comfortable with Nano or something, you can probably use it. And if you have any problems, try asking your neighbor. So now what I'll do is I'll try adding my public key to the authorized key list. So I'll open a different terminal. So here, idea. Okay, so can we move forward? Okay. So when you so your public key usually is located at .ssh/idrsa.pub. So for example, this is my public key. So what I'll do is I'll just copy my public key. So I just copied my public key here. As you can see, this is Dilip Shiva's MacBook Pro local. So which now means I should be able to log into this instance without using a PIM file. So I've exited. Now if I want to SSH again, I can just delete the PIM file. So I do not need the PIM file anymore to log in. So if you want to give any one of your team members the access, you just get the public key and put it in the authorized key list. And whenever they are done with it, you can just remove it from the authorized key list again.
You can ask and then.
So who is still having problems? No? Okay. You also have problems? Okay, so some people might not have, if you've never used SSH before, you might not have a public key. So first you should generate a public key. I'll just quickly tell you the command. SSH keygen -t. Okay, so this is the command SSH keygen -t RSA. So if you type this command, you will, and if you just use all the default inputs, you should be able to generate a key, and then you can use that public key. Does anyone want help with this? You need it?
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I already got it. It's okay. It is only free to download. I created a big instance. Yeah. Will not do it. Will not. That's done. I give you a virtual card. You can try it. Maybe you can charge it. You have to pay it.
Are you even using that platform?
Okay, so is there anyone who still didn't do it? Huh? The last line? Oh, that is to generate the public key if you don't. Oh, you want to know which file is it? Okay, so that file would be your vim.ssh authorized keys. First a second. Yeah.
मेरा इंस्टेंस अभी क्रिएट किया मैंने इसलिए इसको देखो तो कैसे करते हैं इंस्टेंस क्रिएट करना है तो फ्यूचर ठीक है मतलब वैसे ठीक है जब लॉगिन पासवर्ड का डाउनलोड है मैं क्रिएट कर रहा था पहले कुछ नहीं रहेगा प्लीज ओके ये मतलब डाउनलोड मारा तो डाउनलोड होने के बाद ये मतलब एग्जिस्टिंग
Okay, so for the people who is not working, just bear with this thing because we keep making this take a long time and we'll not finish it. So just go forward and unless push it. Okay. So I'll just keep going forward. You can probably look in. I mean, I think they're going to publish it online. I don't know the URL or not, but I think they'll chat. You can probably see it, or you can drop me an email. I can probably help you with that. So yeah, so I'll just keep moving forward as long as at least half the people complete it. Sorry
Everyone is done.
Everyone is done. Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll just run a simple Python app and see how to keep it running forever, and then we'll write a Fabric script because I know Fabric, I'm comfortable with Fabric. There are also multiple other scripts, multiple other tools that you can use. Like if you're coming from Rails, you can use Capistrano or there are other tools. So not necessarily Python. I mean, I'm using Python, which is built in Fabric. That doesn't mean you can only deploy Python applications. You can pretty much deploy any applications that's independent of the framework. And the case is the same with Capistrano or whatever other tools that you want to use, or Puppet or Ansible. So yeah, first we'll just create a sample, like a Flask application. So I'll just quickly give you the commands. You can probably run it, or if you know how to create a simple web app, you want to create it yourself, some other app, you can create it yourself as well. So yeah. So first I'll pip install Flask, which is a requirement that I need to install for me to create a web server. Okay. I think it will need to use sudo. Okay. So can you click enter? Just want to make sure. Oh shit. The Python is easy install pip. Sudo easy install pip. I see underscore install. Underscore.
It also works, right?
Hey, Python, is there a Python? Huh?
App-get works, right? Good.
Python pip, I guess. Okay. So first you need to run sudo apt-get install python -pip fail. Sorry, fail. What did we oh yeah, update. Sudo apt-get update. Thank you. Okay. No, sudo apt-get install. That depends on what image that you use. So for whatever Ubuntu that you use, it's Ubuntu whatever you need to log in as Ubuntu. If you use some other image, that might be different. So it might be somewhere in the documentation, but I'm not. It should be somewhere in the documentation. Okay, awesome.
So you can ask them to install it.
Okay. So you need to run two commands, which is sudo apt-get install python pip and highlight. Or you can just type it. Make it clear. So this is the first command, and then the next command is sudo pip install. Just pip install, no? Just pip install. Pip install Flask. Sudo you didn't pip install. Okay. So these are the two commands. Again, if you want to like deploy your own, application, you don't have to do this. You can just, if you're familiar with Node, you can probably create a Node app. I can use that with Fabric as well. Okay, so let's now move forward. I'll just create a simple app. I'll just copy paste a simple app. Flask.
Flask.
It's on Flask.
Flask.
Okay, just copy. Okay, so if you search for Python Flask and visit the first URL, there'll be a sample application. You can just copy paste it for now.
You need to save it to a file, right?
Yeah, app.py. Just win app.py and then paste it. Amazon, you can copy it over because we have apparently there is no apt get in your Amazon Linux instances. I'm not sure what distribution that thing is. Do you have any idea what distribution that thing is?
Yum.
Oh, it's yum install.
Fedora, I think.
Huh? Yeah, sudo apt-get install Python -get. Okay, so if you're on Amazon Linux, you should use yum instead of apt-get. So, everybody have a copy of the app? Does someone need the URL or something? If you want, you can see it. Okay, so I'll just keep moving forward. Okay, so after you have you've created your app.py file, all you need to do to run it is just Python app.py, and now your application is running on 5000 port. But as you know, we blocked in our security config. So I'll show you. Okay. So this is my public IP. If I were to copy this and visit the port, I'll not be able to access the application because in my security, like you saw in the security groups, I've disabled only for, I've enabled ports, I've opened ports only for SSH and HTTP, which is port 80. So basically what I want to do is I need to run this application in port 80 now if I have to access it, or I should edit the security group to add the 500 port. So I'll just take the easy route, which is to run it in 80 port. Okay, so you just need to specify port is equal to 80 for you to, if you need to run it in port 80. So how many of you have actually managed to reach here? Okay, very good. Yeah, I just. Oh. Yes, sir. I thought this would be over quickly. Python. I think you also have to use so I think the package name is but saying there is no package. I think in Gams. Can you send an instance and create an instance? Yeah, that's what I don't know the context for that. Okay. Okay, so I'll just continue. I know most of you are not able to do it, but I'll publish the documentation online tonight on the same repo, Skillshare/talks. So I can probably look into it and execute it step by step. And if you have questions, you can email me.
Did you create it, right?
Yeah, I created it. I didn't download it. Yes. So port is equal to 80. So when you are done with that, so if you change your port to 80 and you visit the site, you should be able to see it. Oh. This time you need to run with sudo command, because in order for you to port bind to port 80, you should need super user permission. So what the? Okay, in addition to port, sorry guys, in addition to port, you should specify host, because the default host is a loopback address. It's not exposed to public network. So you just add host is equal to 0.0.0.0 and string. And now if you run sudo app.py, and if you visit the public URL, if you don't know how to visit the public URL, you just if you have your window open, it is over here, you just copy paste it, and you should basically get this hello world message. So if you're getting this, your app is now running properly. So scripting nothing is just I mean, if you want to script this, right? So I'm going to use Fabric to script it. You also need to run a pip install Fabric on your local machine. But you know what? Okay, so let's go step by step. Let's install Fabric local on your local machine. So this is my local machine. I want to install. So the command is just pip install Fabric. If you're on your local machine, you may have to use sudo, depending upon if you're using virtual environment or not. Again, this is on your local machine, not on AWS. You should run this on your local machine. Okay. So now all left for us to do is to create a Fabric script to automate the whole process. So what we'll do in the Fabric script is SSH, update all the package managers. Again, I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure if this will work on Amazon Linux, because it's a YAM distribution. But it will work if for whoever is using Ubuntu, it will work on Ubuntu. So let me get started on it. On your local machine, you should open a file. You should create a new file called fabfile.py, and use your favorite editor. Mine is Vim. So I'll. What? There is a fabfile.py. Yeah, Fabric is locally.
Binding thing for them.
For the binding? Oh shit.
Just how to bind it. Just asking to me.
Okay. So for people who are still on remote server, not able to run it, so this is the file. You just have to insert these two parameters. Host is equal to 0.0.0 and port is equal to 80. So if you have not done that yet.
I didn't do that, but I started on 4.5.
Yeah, but you'll not be able to hit the server.
No, I started 5.5.
Security, okay. You should specify host. Host is 0.0. Default is 127. 127.0.0, which is a
If you don't run it without host, you will run it locally. So if you do a 0.0.0, it will, yes.
So no matter how we are running it, you could have added a security group. I mean, you could have added a custom rule in security group if for the advanced users. Even if you do that, you should still add host is equal to 0.0.0.0. Okay, so I'll get started on the fabric file. Should I get started on the fabric file? Last time. So the fabric file is on your local machine, not on the remote. It's still local machine using Notepad or whatever, but I don't think this might run on Windows. I don't know if this will run on Windows. I don't think this will run on Windows. I need a Python to learn. Sorry. Oh shit. No, sorry, final.
What was
No, I by default my Python environment is Python 3.
okay.
So what the interest of the command? Hurry, forget the command again. Command please. Oops.
This
Oh shit. No, I'm in the wrong directory. Okay. So guys, so this is a sample Python script. Sorry, Fabric script. So what it will do is you should specify. Oh, sorry. Give me a second. Is that right? Okay. So there's nothing complicated. So you just have to import run and env, and you should set host is equal to whatever your IP is. And if you have created an instance with the default Ubuntu user, you create user is equal to Ubuntu, or else you create whatever user that whatever. Oh, sorry. So yeah, this is a sample script. So what it will do is just run the echo yes on your remote server. In my case, it is that IP, and the login is Ubuntu. So if you have not used the default Ubuntu distribution, but you've used some custom distributions, so that is going to be some other user, like for I think Amazon Linux, right? What was that? Okay, what? Okay, for RHEL it is easy to user, and if you or some other user, I'm not sure how to figure it out, but I think someone can figure it out. So yeah, and user is Ubuntu, and so if I had to run this command, I just say fab deploy. So what this will do is it will look on the fabric script, and it will execute the deploy. It will execute the deploy function. So that's what the fab deploy command does. Had you put a different function like test, you should do fab test. So yeah, this is basically the command. I'll give you guys like a minute to like have this command locally for you. We'll move forward. Okay, so I'll just move forward because we're running out of time. For those who have created your Fabric script, if you run fab deploy, it should basically try to connect to the server, and as you can see, it has run the command successfully. So this is output for the previous run command. So that is the ABCs of Fabric, and we'll move on to see how to automate this how to automate running our app.py file that we created. So I'll use another a Python tool called Fab Tools, which is like a helper utility on top of Fabric. All the most common functions, right? To update your to run sudo apt-get update, or to install Postgres, or to install Nginx. It has like common utility functions in that library, so I'll be using it. It's called Fab Tools. So I just run pip install Fab Tools. You may or may not have to use sudo. Okay. So Huh? Sorry. So yeah, so the next thing that you have to do is just import DB from your Fab tools. So DB is nothing but it just has utilities for your Debian distribution. So Ubuntu is a Debian distribution. So if you are on any flavor of Red Hat or Fedora, you might use Yum. They also have, I think, helper tool for Yum. Or shit, they don't have a helper tool for Yum. They just have for Debian. So Ubuntu is a Debian. So for those who are not using this thing, sorry, I didn't know that they didn't have it for Yum. So yeah, basically when you do a dev.update index, what it does is just it updates it just runs sudo apt-get update, which is basically something that you run on a standard basis. So it will run this command, as you can see here. Okay. So as you can see here, it will run this command in a non-interactive mode. So we ran this command just like few minutes ago. So it's not showing anything, or else you would have shown it with all the updates that it had pulled. And now I want to run supervisor D. So supervisor D is like a forever. If you're familiar with the forever tool, it is something like your forever tool. So the only responsibility that it has is it ensures that a script keeps on running. Even if it crashes, it will try to get it back and restart. So let's try to run our Python file, whatever that we created, on using supervisor. So first thing that we need to do is install supervisor D. So Fab tools again provide shortcuts for installing supervisor Ds and stuff. All you need to do is I'll show you. So Fab tools start. Will do the job. Process won't do the job. Okay. Okay, that's fine.
But it can run the
Yeah, that's right. Wait.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we should just hit a part.
No, but THN.
Oh, sorry. Like working that is it's not required, but we'll give this thing anyway.
Simply. Username is not required.
No, we need open models.
But it's log.
No, but it's running on port 80, right? So it's because
That file is where log. Not it.
I'll just Tim.
Less
Once. Didn't run any of this system. Technology. Please. Mata.
only one argument.
0 given. Process take exactly 1 argument, but 0 given. I didn't give 0.
The
How is it saying 0 given? Oh, is it process?
process Maya dot command.
Okay, let me just. Oh, okay. That is Maya.
The main
Awesome. I'm still not sure if it will run it properly, but yeah. Yeah, let me just finalize that and tell. I don't want to confuse people. They're already confused. Confused. Maybe it was too much. Oh, I thought this will be over within 5:30. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, that's right. I should have finished running this thing. Yeah, it is still setting up. Or did it? Oh, I think it got hung. Did it get hung? I think it's Microservices. Doesn't. I just hope I'm not doing something silly. Install supervisor. No, this has nothing to do with internet. It's running on AWS, but I think it got locked somewhere.
okay. I think the AWS is still running in the background.
No, it is stopped. Oh, sorry. No, yeah, it is stopped. Okay, I think there is some. There's a lock somewhere. So guys, so this is a simple, sample supervisor configuration. So what I'm basically saying is, I'm going to run something called a test app, and so the command to run the app is Python, and the app.py file is located at /home/ubuntu if you're using the Ubuntu distribution, and then we should, more often than not, we the working directory. In this case, it is not required, but I'm just putting it out there anyway. This is required so that it gets the context of the directory that you're executing in. If you have another Python you want to import from it, this will work properly, or else if you don't specify the home directory, it is not going to work properly. So you want to specify the user as which you want to run your application as. Sometimes I've seen people running everything as a root user, which is a very bad idea, because say if there is an exploit that in the framework that you are using, they can possibly use that exploit to their advantage, because the process is running as a root user, and if there is an exploit, he can have access to all your resources, whichever your instance is running on. So it is not advisable. It is always run in a a user who doesn't have a sudo permission. I mean, don't run it as a super user. That's the point. And this is like the standard log file. Whatever is logged into the standard output, that will go into the log file. So yeah, this is like a simple configuration, but there is some trouble running it. I'm not sure if it's all.
So if we want to do some environment variable, we can define it.
Yeah, environment variable you can define here, or you can also, yeah, you can also have a proc file. Sorry, a bash profile file where you define all your environment variables and actually spin up a bash instance and create this thing. Yeah, but usually I don't go with environment variable for this kind of stuff because this is like a manual thing. I don't even do these things. What I do is I usually offer my team a pass. I install DS. There are like multiple things like open source path that I talked about, DS Flynn or whatever. I just give them that. They just do a git push. And pass is basically you have your own Heroku on your this thing.
So if I'm not using Heroku,
so if you're not using Heroku, in any case, committing it to the repo is not a good idea. The recommended way is to use environment variables.
I'm using AWS EC2 instance.
Uh-huh.
So how, if I want to set up the environment?
So you can either so there is this thing you can set up. I forgot how to do it, but you can set up some metadata on your AWS. There is a endpoint from which you can get the tags of your instance. Probably in one of those tags you can specify those environment variables and get it from within the system. That is one way to go about it. And or you can have like a bash profile file that I do and give no one the access. Just you have the access. You just have the fabric script, deploy it. So. Oh, so that okay, that proc file is something like so proc file basically consists of all the commands that are needed to run in order to run your application. Like for example, you saw Python app.py, right? It might be different for different frameworks and the languages that you use. So you specify that commands in your proc file, and proc file is basically used in Heroku. So when you push your code to Heroku, it will know what commands to run by looking at the proc file. Sorry? Process, no, not process, but it is related to process. It will say which process to run. That's why it's called proc file. I think that is process, but no, you don't specify process ID. You just specify what is the command to run your process. That's it. Sorry? Any commands. You can specify bash commands or you can specify Python commands, whatever. So there are many ways to run your application, right? So Python app.py is not the only way to run it. I can configure all the environment variables. No, the Heroku knows. No, it is related to purely. I mean, there are some other providers who support proc file. Oh, okay, I am not sure of the Java thingy, but as far as I know, Heroku is the one who introduced the proc files and stuff. But that's just my, that's how far I know. Yeah, not the deploy script, but app.python. So I will not even use a fabric script in Heroku because Heroku will build its own image. So I will not, it doesn't make sense to run fabric and Heroku. So Heroku, I'll have build packs. I'll not have fabric. The equivalent is build packs. You specify all the commands for setting up your environment. And proc file is like this this command. As you can see, I have Python app.py, right? I can specify this thing in a proc file and push it and Heroku will run it. So yeah, that is supposed to run, but for some reason this is hanging, and I don't know why this is getting hang. But the end goal is, you know, if you have to if that ran successfully, it will, so no matter how many times you restart your system, your process is going to be starting when your system starts up again. So that's what supervisor does. You just have to give it a configuration variable, and it will make sure it will always run. Even on the restart, you don't have to manually SSH and start it again. It will just start on the boot by itself. So that's all that there is. I'll publish these codes.
What it does is saying like, for example, you have a Linux virtual machine. So you put it in the file. That on the boot, it will go to this file and it will run this.
Which file?
Sorry,
so the fabric.py, right? No.
That will specify on the boot this file should run.
Yeah, no, but you don't.
What you are saying is a /etc/init.d conf file which restarts every time with on reboot.
Init.d, whatever file we put or whatever.
Yes, if the process is crashing, it will restart again. Yes. The supervisor also does the same.
So the same thing can do.
But I think it will run as a forever. Even you close that.
Yeah, it is forever.
It runs in the background.
It will start that process on.
Yeah, it will start the process back on if it crashed or something.
Yeah. So it's like if you just PM2 forever, we have.
So that is it, guys. That is the basic this thing. And Fabric, I'll just talk a little bit about Fabric because it's a really nice tool and it has this Fab Tools, which is a utility built on top of Fabric. So if you need to install Nginx and stuff like that, you have like helper things, helper functions. So you just say Nginx enable to enable your sites. You don't need to manually move in from available sites and enabled sites. And so for basically for all the common things that you can think for creating a cron job or for adding some new lines to a file, you have all the utility functions to it. So it's worth looking at if you are starting into scripting, automated scripting. So that is it for the AWS part, and we'll move to Docker. I'll just quickly go to Docker like in 10 minutes because I was supposed to finish at 6 o'clock. But I have lots of documentations. I'll put it online. So Docker, again, I'm not going to. I didn't even create my own slides because introduction to Docker it's happened like a million times before that. Plenty of people have like plenty of slides. So I just took one from this place called .slides. Sorry, .cloud. So okay, so 21 people has never used Docker, so okay, but I'll try to crunch it down. So I think I'll skip the demo because there are like multiple tutorials out there. I'll be sure to post some 2 or 3 good videos in the same repo on the same issue if you can keep an eye on. So who out of these 21 people, who has a fair idea of what I mean, at least like a basic. It's okay even if you never used it, but who has an idea of what Docker is? You can raise your hands. Not exactly, but yeah, some things. Okay. Okay. So I'll just give a brief introduction on Docker and where it stands. So I'm not going to show any demos because we don't have time. So in the earlier days, right? First they were having like many instances. Like there used to be like a room will be filled with many servers. But not all the servers have like 100% CPU utilization or memory utilization, right? So it's bound to have like 50%, 40% ideally, and then the remaining will be just free. That is the same for all the servers in the world. So that is when they came up with virtualization. So they said, okay, so instead of giving like each individual system and resourcing and wasting all the resources, I'll just give them virtual environments. That way I can reduce the number of or I can best utilize whatever device, whatever hardware that I have. Right? So they came up with this virtualization. That's where all this AWS, that's how all this basically AWS thingy works. You create a virtual machine. You are not assigned an actual physical machine. You are just running on top of running inside of a virtual machine. But the problem with that is even virtual machines. So virtual machines has like it's pretty slow to start with, because first you need to have a guest OS, and on top of the guest OS, the virtual box or whatever will be installed for us. For the same matter, it's virtual box. So it's a virtual box. On inside the virtual box, there is another OS. So there is a OS within another OS, which will be like pretty slow. And people came up with this things called hypervisors. I myself am not familiar with what hypervisors are, but as far as I know, they help virtual machines run on. They let the virtual machines directly use the resources on the hardware. That's how much I know in the layman's terms, but I'm sure it's much complicated. So even that wasn't very good because this is you are basically emulating the whole hardware layer, and there is another kernel, and on top of that you're running your applications, which took like plenty of resource. Better than what you used to do, physically without VMs, but not so much better. And that is when they came up with Google, a couple of engineers at Google. So when people talk about containers, they usually just imagine Docker, but there are plenty of other, not plenty, few of other container technologies available as well. One is called Rocket, RKT. It's from CoreOS. If you have, so that is something again very similar to Docker. And Linux container, I guess. So, so what a couple of guys at Google did is, so they saw that there was a problem that none of those VMs were being used up to their full potential, and they cannot go on top of VMs because they were already on VMs, which was very slow, and they wanted a better way to run things like in an isolated. So they came up with C groups. So C groups is like it's a small utility on your Linux machines. So what it will do is it will create a separate namespace, like it will create a separate isolated namespace for you to work on. Like so it will not have any access to any of your system files or the system memory. It will be as if it's a independent system. So that's what basically a Docker is. So the isolation happens in like many layers. Like you can have like an isolated file system, or you can have like an isolated memory. That's what you was able to do with C groups. C groups basically plays with this concept called namespaces. So I really wish that I could show you a demo because it would have been much clearer. So you can create different namespaces, and in those different namespaces you can allocate different resources like memory, this much memory, or this much space and stuff like that. And so basically the thing is Docker, the containers existed much before Docker. Only that you cannot do a Docker. Now you just do run a command like Docker run, and you create a separate container for yourself. But in the olden days, it is like you need to run like at least 8 commands to sort of get yourself a container and work on it. So it's a pretty old technology. Only that Docker has repurposed it and give like a command line or command line utilities on top of it to make it work simple. So basically, what it does is it just isolates all your environments, like the memory. So for whatever process that's running within your container, it will not see any other process which is running on your host. For it, it will be like a separate independent CPU. That's basically what Docker offers you, an isolation from from isolation from all the angles. And what it also enables. Okay, again, I wish I showed some slides. So with this Docker, right, you don't have to have a documentation of how to set up your environment anymore. You just have to write a Docker file. A Docker file, if you have if you have ran a make file or something like that, that is similarly. It is very similar to that of a make file. Only make will execute bash commands, and Docker file will execute your Docker command. So you can specify like, okay, I need a Docker command. you have a sample Docker file?
Yeah, I think Kubernetes has a very good, but we'll get confused again.
Yeah, that's what okay, I'll probably take something from here. So, so this is typically what a Docker file looks like. So, so you should say, so you can have multiple base images. Like there is an image for Python, which the Python guys have created, or anyone else can create also. But it is, so yeah, basically there are like different images for each platform that you can think of. There is a base image, or you can also go for the Ubuntu image that you want. So basically you just have the kernels that are required, or the base layers that are required to run some basic commands. If you go for Python, you will have the layers for Python's install. So for example, here when we say from Ubuntu 12.04, what your Docker will do is try to pull this Ubuntu 12.04 image from Docker Hub. Again, Docker Hub is like a canonical repository. Think of it like a think of Docker Hub like GitHub for images. That's what Docker Hub is. In GitHub, you commit your code and push it. In Docker, you create a Docker file and create images out of it, and you can push it, and it will push and pull by layers, just like your Git would push and pull by commits. So it is something like that. So it will basically pull from 12.04, and you can say, okay, for me to create a new, say a new image out of this Docker file, you go there and create a Docker build command. So if you run a Docker build command, first it will pull the Ubuntu image and run the update. It will try to fetch all the repository, all the code, like whatever we did, right? We could have said apt-get update and should apt-get install python-pip, and then pip install. Again, the next time we could have done pip install, pip install Flask and stuff. And then we could have copied. There is a separate command called copy, which will copy the files and stuff. That is not the ideal way, but to keep things simple. So just like from maintainer and run, there is another command called copy. So that will copy the files onto your image. So you could have copied the app.py file. And there is another this thing called so expose will say basically which port to expose from your. Basically, you will not be able to see any of the ports within the container. If you have to, if you need to be able to visit the ports within the container, you should be able to expose the port, and that's how you do it. And finally, in the command, we would have run, the Python app.py command. So that would have ran the your Python file within your own container. And then this is how you set the environment variables. So when you do a Docker build, it basically creates an image, and it is up to you. You can either push the image, if it is a public this thing, you can push it to Docker Hub. It's just like GitHub, you can create an account and push it to Docker Hub and share it with everyone else. Like you can create a say a development environment and share it with everyone else. And if you want to if you want to run it, you just say Docker run, and more often than not, you will specify a name for your image. You just give you just say Docker run image. For example, if I had given a name called test app for this image, I just say Docker run test app, and it will just run the image. It will create a container out of your image, and it will run it. So I know this should be like a lot to take in. I mean, most people wouldn't even understand, I guess. But be sure to push in all the slides and all the videos related to that thing. You can probably check it out. I think since it's time, if there is any questions, we can probably take it offline or something. Or
if some people are interested to install Docker and everything, will be there.
Yeah, I can stay here if you guys want me to
so
stay.
You can ask people, if they want to install and see Docker.
Okay.
That's an interesting thing.
Okay.
So ask, and if people want to do it, let us
Okay.
show them what to do it. Right?
Yes.
Just a point.
So yeah, if you guys want to do it, I can be here. I can be here till even 8 if you want to do it. It doesn't matter. So for people who want to leave, you can leave, or if you have any questions, if you want to ask, you can ask. And thank you for Accion and Necessity for setting this thing up.
So if more people want to see installation of Docker and things like that, I want to have a Docker image running on my machine, I have everything. Want to try, etc. We will be there. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm here.